Good sleep is everything. That's why Ollie's science-backed support is made with a blend of melatonin and L-theanine for both kiddos and grown-ups. So when your mind won't switch off, you've got something that can help. Your racing thoughts and restless nights won't stand a chance. Find Ollie Sleep Solutions for the whole family at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hello, it's Adam here, and you're about to listen to a hypnosis session all about avoiding overwhelm and actually finding that clarity and that ability to just do what needs to be done rather than avoiding it. And I was working with a client that was very, very capable, very resourceful. They did have ADHD, and that made them prone to finding that shiny new thing rather than dealing with the things that were more admin-based or gave them less of a payoff. That said, they were very, very capable, and they were finding themselves in this ostrich with their head in the sand syndrome, where they were just putting off even thinking about things that if they dealt with in the moment would mean it was very easy to resolve. But by ignoring and delaying, it was meaning the problems got bigger and bigger. So for example, financially, that might mean if you ignore a bill, but the bill then has penalties and interest, and it affects your credit rating, not resolving it actually makes things much worse. Or if there's a leak and you just ignore the leak, well, the nature of water is it's got to find a way out. It's going to cause more and more damage each and every day that you ignore that. So these are the kind of things that they didn't really want to resolve. And it meant that they were driving blind or flying blind. And that metaphor is actually used in this hypnosis session. And it's a powerful metaphor because if you were flying blind or driving blind, you're not going to be able to go at the same speed you could if you had absolute clarity. And that clarity makes a big difference. So not knowing where you are and feeling like you're trying to keep your head above water is going to lead to a lot of panic, a lot of stress. Whereas if you feel that you're stable and you've got clarity, then actually you can start making decisions from a position of strength rather than frantically. So if you can relate to any of these themes, any of these ideas, you might get some real value from this session. Now, it was created for a very specific client who had specific needs and areas to focus on. They might not be your same needs and areas to focus on. So if you get value from this session, great. But if you want something a bit more bespoke to you, if you look in the description or my website, adamcox.co.uk, you'll be able to find ways to work with me directly. For now, though, I want you to find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in that wonderful feeling of calm and relaxation. And right here, right now, as you breathe out, set the intention to release any stress, any tension, any overwhelm. Give yourself permission to release. You've gone through a lot. Stress, uncertainty. So release that as you breathe out. And when you breathe in that wonderful feeling of resourceful relaxation. Breathe in that feeling of resourcefulness and continue to release. And sometimes when people are going through a stressful, anxious, or overwhelming time, the clues are in the body. And maybe it's a tight jaw. Maybe muscles are tensed. Maybe there's a sensation in the chest or the gut that feels tight or twisted. And every time you exhale for longer. And focus on that part of your body and the idea of letting go. And don't be surprised if your jaw loosens, your breathing slows down, your body starts to escape that brace position like you're about to crash. And instead, I want you to feel a floating sensation. Because if you were lost at sea, being rigid and tense doesn't help. Being relaxed and breathing deeply means you float to the surface. And I want you to get a feeling that if you can float naturally, you don't need to feel like you're about to drown. But here in this moment, position your body in such a way where you can really relax. And in that comfortable position, don't try to force anything. Just allow yourself to pause long enough to notice that your body already knows how to settle and relax when nothing is demanded of it. You can choose to breathe in deeper and exhale for longer, but you don't have to, because breathing happens automatically. The heart moves blood automatically, and your nervous system has kept you alive through hundreds, if not thousands, of unpredictable moments. And connect to that idea, because you've already proven something powerful. And that is that you already have the resources to navigate life. And of course, there's been times where it felt that you were just trying to keep your head above water, frantically paddling, treading hard, working to stay afloat, occasionally getting a breath before the very next wave arrives. And when it feels like that, the mind doesn't like to be stressed. It creates a simple strategy. Don't look at the waves. Just keep moving. But something fascinating happens when a person stops for a moment and just looks around. Sometimes they realize they were never actually in deep ocean. They were in a shallow pool, and at any point they could have just stood up, and all of that effort wasn't needed. They were working so hard to stay afloat. In water that they could have just stood up in anyway. And once that idea becomes clear, everything can change if you allow it. Because instead of fighting the water and ignoring the waves, you can simply stand. And when you stand, the body relaxes. breathing becomes easier, and clarity returns. Now I want you to imagine floating to a different world, a different situation, and imagine that you are standing in front of a powerful vehicle, a big engine. It can drive fast. This is a powerful vehicle. The engine works well. The journey is important. But I want you to imagine what it would be like to climb into that powerful vehicle and refuse to ever look at the dashboard. And just imagine someone has smeared mud all over the windscreen. You have a powerful, capable car, but you can't see the dashboard and you can't see the road. How confident would you be driving that vehicle if you were driving blind? You may not drive at all. You might choose to avoid to drive. But if you had to drive, you would make very short journeys. And you would drive very cautiously. You would only drive if you absolutely needed to. But there is another way. Every experienced driver knows you don't even need to stop the car. You can simply clear the windshield, the push of a button, spraying that cleaner, the window wipers moving from left to right, and within seconds, driving has gone from something to be avoided to something that becomes empowered, useful, and even fun. Just a decision, and suddenly the road appears. And that would be much more beneficial to drive. But if you also looked at the dashboard, you would know when you're running low on fuel, if the engine is overheating, how fast you're going. These don't control you. They're just information for you to make empowered decisions. And when you make empowered decisions, driving can go from scary to stable. And I wonder if your life is like that. By not knowing how much fuel you have in the tank, if you're going to be left stranded and high and dry, or any dangers on the road ahead, avoidance makes sense. But when you see things for what they actually are, driving is not dangerous, not reckless, and not stressful. In fact, you can accomplish more by driving than you ever can by walking. Clarity amplifies capability. And I wonder, in your life, what are the potholes, the turns ahead, the destination, the direction? And with visibility and clarity, a difficult or impossible journey becomes easier, not slower, not harder, just smarter. They say ignorance is bliss. And you've seen an image of an ostrich with its head in the sand. But the head in the sand does not make the predator disappear. It makes the ostrich more vulnerable to the predator because it doesn't know where it is. maybe you've thought, if I look at something difficult, it will overwhelm me. I don't have the time to deal with this right now. But your mind has looked at difficult things many times in life. You faced challenges, solved problems, built things, learned skills. And this means something important about you. That you are already someone who can experience discomfort and still take effective action. It's one of the most powerful abilities a human can have. The ability to move forward, to take responsibility, even when things are imperfect or difficult. If you have to wait for everything to feel easy, that day may never come. But know that progress often begins in small, practical steps, and each step makes the next step easier than the step before. What if you created a dashboard within your life, similar to the cockpit in a private jet? What if you create life that begins to resemble that dashboard, that control panel of a very powerful system? And sometimes it might be the dashboard on accounting software. It might be a graph. It might be numbers in red or green. Nothing dramatic, just signals. What if cash flow is like fuel in the tank? What if there are prompts to remind you about bills to pay and things to respond? What if you set things up to not have to think? Appointments that take place once every 6 months or 12 months, and you just do them because they're in your diary. Each signal is simply information. Not a crisis, not a judgment. Just information that helps you steer effectively. Because the very best pilots don't panic when they see an alert on their indicator. They glance, they adjust and refine, and they continue flying. And when you begin to recognize that your life works very much the same way, that visibility and clarity brings control, and that empowerment leads to decisiveness. Decisions bring stability, and stability brings peace. And I want you to imagine seeing yourself 1 year from now in a different chapter called stability. I want you to see yourself 1 year from now looking the most empowered that you ever have. That version of you knows what's going on. Unfinished business or open loops are all resolved. If there's problems, you know about them. You are the captain of your ship. And I want you to see that this new version of you moves towards the things you used to avoid. That's what makes that version of you so empowered. They make the decisions, they don't avoid them. They take the actions, they don't procrastinate or delay them. And in doing so, they have stability. And with that stability, it forges a foundation for bigger decisions that can lead to more freedom. There's no point having money with chaos. Isn't it better to grow and succeed while feeling accomplished and peaceful. See that version of you 1 year from now and look for clues about how you've structured your life so that it isn't a blip, it's a standard. Maybe you have reports, rituals, things you do the same time each week or month, things you check, alerts. I want you to see that that version of you is not firefighting and constantly dealing with emergencies. That version of you is focusing on what is the best use of your time and delegating everything else to people that are more naturally suited to doing that thing. You don't have to repair your own teeth. A dentist is better at doing that. You don't have to fix a leak. A plumber or a tradesperson can do it better. And you don't have to go through every receipt. A bookkeeper loves doing what for you may be mundane, boring, or overwhelming. You are the captain of the ship. You are not every single crew member at exactly the same time. And when you get a sense that that future version of you has figured out the boundaries, the rituals, the patterns, and the habits to create that stability, then imagine stepping into that future version of you and feel how you would feel. Notice it doesn't feel like you're driving blind. It doesn't feel like you're constantly drowning. It doesn't feel that there is a sword of Damocles dangling over your head. You feel peace because you know what to do and how best to do it, even if it's not you that actually does those things. And as you hold that thought, knowing that a more stable, peaceful future is waiting for you, unlock all of the resources to create a chain reaction, small steps, little decisions that take you towards that, and start with tomorrow. What are 1 or 2 things you can do tomorrow that move you in that direction? What are the things that could be scary and you just don't know because you've been avoiding? And remember, the child doesn't look for the monster under the bed because the monster is scary. But when they do look, rather than avoid, the monster disappears. And I think many of your scary worries will disappear the moment you look in the very place where you've been avoiding. It's time to return to the present, taking these changes with you. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.